It's Facebook Live from Jacksonville, here with Vahe Gregorian, Sam Mellinger, and look who's here. For the first time, Sam McDowell. Melly, I think that this is the 5th year that we've been doing some sort of post-game Chiefs discussion. And I know it's 5 years because in 2015, I remember after the game in Minnesota, you and Therese and I standing by a trash can because the Chiefs were playing like garbage at the time. So it's year 5, and the cast change. We turn over writers, but we come to you after every Chiefs game, home and away. So we're here to talk about the Chiefs' 40-26 victory over the Jacksonville Jaguars, which a lot of things happened today. And Vahe, you and I tried to discuss some of these on the field before the game, and we got about 3.5 minutes in. I looked 3.5 minutes into a pregame Facebook Live. It's easy for me to say. Before Jill's phone melted, and that was
Did it actually say danger? What was the term?
What was the term, Jill?
Warning.
The temperature exceeds an
emergency.
Yeah.
Emergency. So we had to shut it down after 2.5, which was good because we didn't want to stay on the field any longer. But the players stayed on the field, and we thought that the heat would make a difference today. It kind of didn't. I thought the teams handled that well. We thought Nick Foles might make a difference. He didn't because he wasn't there after the second series. So nothing happened the way we thought it was going to happen or the way we projected in 3.5 minutes. But what did happen was Patrick Mahomes picked up where he left off in his 2018 MVP season. He was, I thought he was tremendous.
He was tremendous, and I think in a way showed a little bit of another dimension of himself today because much of what he did was after he hurt his ankle. And it was a lot of dinking and dunking in short game, but it made me remember or made me realize anew that he can dissect you and break your heart with that too. I mean, he doesn't have to be 68 yards or 49 yards like he did in the first quarter to
pre-ankle
dispirit
injury.
the other team. Yeah, so... But the ankle injury sure was a worrisome moment, especially when he went in the tent, his tent debut in the NFL. And he was pretty funny about it after the game. Actually, sort of made a point that it was a hot day and he wanted to get out of the tent.
Yeah, good move on his part.
Good move.
Yeah, he got some of that mist, spraying on him. That was good. So, Sam, what was this vintage Patrick Mahomes? Is a year in a game enough to call it a vintage Mahomes? Can we go there?
Well, one thing to sort of underline what Vahe just said, they had their ones. We talk a lot about how the defense only had 3 snaps together, right, in the preseason. The offense only had their ones together for like 9 minutes or something like that.
Right.
And they scored 40 points on a team that has good defensive players and a lot of pride and talent on that side of the ball. And also, notably, I think had been looking forward to this. This was their revenge game in their season opener at home, and they just got punked again by a team with a hobbled quarterback and their number 1 receiver not there. It was a pretty remarkable performance.
Yeah, Tyreek Hill injured, and we'll get into that in a moment. We can get into that now for a little, saying we don't know exactly what the length of time he'll miss is. The Chiefs don't know.
They don't know.
Nobody knows,
yeah.
and I don't know if, but he did go to the hospital. He spent the second half of the game at a local hospital, and Rick Burkhalter came out. Never good when Rick Burkhalter addresses the media. But in this case, I think the message was actually kind of positive. That it wasn't a medical concern, or the way he put it was it wasn't serious.
Could have been worse.
Yeah, could have been worse.
That was the way he put it. But obviously, like you said, anytime Rick comes out, you assume that he's not going to be a day-to-day thing where he's I guess, am I already using the phrase day-to-day?
Yeah. He's come out for day-to-day before.
Welcome, Sam. Welcome.
A real day-to-day.
Yeah, when he comes out spitting the Latin, that's when you know.
He sort of had said there were 2 scenarios based on the injury, and it was maybe potentially the less severe one, I think was the way he phrased it.
Right, that's right. And Adam Teicher, our buddy, asked Andy, made sure to ask Andy if Tyreek was even going to be on the plane with the team coming home. Didn't know for sure, but just to leave that open as a possibility suggests that maybe it's not, the worst of news. But gosh, no Tyreek Hill. He's only missed 1 game in a Chiefs uniform, 1. And that was the finale in 2017 after the Chiefs had clinched a playoff spot And it was the Patrick Mahomes game in Denver, and Marcus Peters sat, and Tyreek sat, and he just sat a bunch of guys. Jehu Chesson made his only career start that day. So he's never been an injury scratch before. So
and has actually said out loud before that I don't get injured.
Yes, that's right.
I remember him saying that and thinking you shouldn't say that. But
for a guy who's 5'10", 185 to
Yeah.
not be injured,
Yeah.
he was hurt some last year, but he didn't miss game or didn't miss much time.
That's a good distinction.
No, he's a tough character, and I didn't think on the play where it happened. It was the play before Sammy Watkins' second touchdown, before the 49-yarder, and when it happened, I didn't think it was serious.
I couldn't see that, and maybe you guys saw it at the first blush, but I didn't see the force with which Ramsey apparently landed on him.
Yeah, and the way that it was described was he landed on him, but he actually injured the opposite side of it. They're calling it a shoulder injury, but it's actually not in his shoulder. It's between like his clavicle and his sternum.
Right.
And it was actually, even though he got hit, I believe, on his right side piled into the ground, it was the part that got piled into the ground, not the part where Ramsey made contact that seems to be injured.
So he goes out, and it's 10-7 on the moment he leaves the game. One play later, it's 17-7, and by the end of the afternoon, it's 40-26. What does it say about this team that they can lose a player, the guy who set the team record for receiving yards last year, made the Pro Bowl for the third time, is their best receiver, and they just go on to continue to score. They scored on their first 7 possessions today. That's freaking remarkable.
And it would have been more if Patrick hadn't gotten all fancy with his no-look pass.
Well, they got the field goal. They just didn't get the touchdown on it.
Yeah, but it would have been, 4 more, but it would have,
Right.
Yeah.
But so what does it say about the offense that they can
Don't you
roll
guys
without?
have in your head, and Sam especially can get into this from writing about Sammy Watkins, but I just have in my head, I didn't look at the numbers, but like 7 different guys going 30 or more on plays. It probably wasn't that. It's probably 4 guys, 5 guys, but 15 to 20 yards, little wheel routes, just guys. Travis Kelce here's 35 yards. I mean, they couldn't cover this whole team. They just can't.
And this
How
is
can
a
you?
good defensive team.
Yeah.
Really good defensive team. A team that intimidates. And we saw that in the end zone in the second quarter when the Miles Jack got tossed and Damian Williams and who was it? Who got the other in sportsman? DeMarcus Robinson, I think.
Well, the
got
more
in
important thing was happening while Mahomes looking off the field.
It's
like,
right.
the real stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
It reminded me of kind of a professional wrestling thing where there's activity going on somewhere, and meanwhile the guy's going into his belt to get the foreign object. We're looking.
You know what? Like a point off of that, Andy Reid talks about discipline all the time. His teams are not disciplined. They make a lot of penalties. They are routinely here among the most penalized teams in the league. They're playing a team who I think we can say like a huge part of their game plan was to piss off the Chiefs. Just hit them late, hit them hard, like do whatever, knock them. Which I'll say, I'm not saying that as a criticism. I think that's a pretty good plan. That if they play, their offense is based so much on speed and timing. If you can muscle up a little bit and knock them off of that, I think that's a pretty good way to win. But the Chiefs, 5 penalties for 55 yards. I don't
look at Jacksonville's
10 for 71.
Yeah. So I don't have the numbers in front of me right now of the 16 games and 2 in the postseason last year, but I would bet that the vast majority of games they were penalized for more than five times and 55 yards. Now, they had some offsetting penalties, the 2 personal fouls that we just mentioned that aren't counted in that. But still, I thought like overall a pretty good job of staying disciplined by a team that doesn't always do it.
Right. And the Jaguars had 4 penalties on their offensive line that were called, accepted. They had 5 total, like holdings, that just killed them. I mean, that was the undisciplined team today, Jacksonville, I thought. Well,
2 or 3 of those were on Frank Clark, too. He didn't make much. He didn't get a sack. But he was getting chipped almost every snap by a back or a tight end, and at least 2, and I think maybe 3 of those holds were on him.
He had the good line after the game too about when you're the boss, you got to pay the cost or something like that. I love that.
He had a lot of good lines.
he
But
did.
his line about having more interceptions than Jalen Ramsey was particularly effective. I thought that was pretty good.
All right, we've gotten this far into it really without getting into Sammy Watkins, and what a game that Sammy Watkins had. We determined, when these big games are unfolding, we're always looking at, the stats to see where this one ranked, and what we determined was, the second best receiving game in a Mahomes start, right? Tyreek Hill had
Yeah.
215 against the Rams last year, but is it sixth overall in Chiefs history?
Sixth in Chiefs history, yeah.
198 yards receiving. Play 3 of the season was, I don't know what you guys thought going into the game. I thought it was going to be a tough struggle defensively, and 3 plays into the game at 7-0, and they're almost. Sammy Watkins is almost laughing at the defense as he's going into the end zone. So.
Almost a little. I can't remember how fast they scored that touchdown at the San Diego Chargers of Los Angeles last year, but it was Tyreek's punt return
Right, after a 3-and-out to open
after
the game.
3-and-out, so it was actually faster.
Yeah, in
More-
terms of
fewer
number of plays.
in
right.
and that's hard to believe.
So you wrote about Sammy, Sam. What,
I think, and listen, all of us, I think, or at least Vahe and Blair, you guys were standing there during his press conference as well, and what struck me is that you sort of assumed a guy that's battled injuries a lot, maybe it's just this is a healthy Sammy Watkins finally, but he attributed to just the fact that he knows the playbook better. And Mahomes did too. Mahomes said something alluding to that too, that once you become more familiar with the playbook, all you have to do is worry about playing fast. And that's exactly the way Watkins framed it as well, that he's not as concerned about thinking when he's out on the field and he's just out there playing. And maybe that's a sign that this could be longer lasting than just a game. Now, obviously, he's not going to have 198 and 3 touchdowns every game, but maybe he could be more productive than he was a year ago. Because, he had 3 touchdowns last year.
Total.
Wow.
Touchdowns.
Wow, I didn't realize that. I
So
thought
he's
it had to be more, I thought.
Yeah,
Wow.
so he's already matched what he did in 2018 there.
this was Clemson Sammy Watkins that we saw today.
And to which Andy Reid referred to at that point being one of the best receivers coming out of college football.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was specifically thinking of what he thought of him at that time when he said that.
There was, this might underline a bit what you were just talking about, Sam, but understanding the offense, but also seems like he has a much better feel with Mahomes now.
And
than he
he
did.
said that as well. Yeah.
And I'm thinking specifically of, everything, but specifically of the third touchdown.
Yeah.
Where it looked like he needed to go
You wondered
inside,
if that was
and
even the
then-
route that he was supposed to run.
It looked like
yeah.
he ad-libbed.
And
You never know.
Yeah, Mahomes just stared at him like, I'm just going to wait on you to get open.
Yeah.
And I don't know that he would do that with Watkins last year at any
Right.
point, really.
Yeah. Last year, I think the touchdowns were, kind of schemed up, and I'm thinking specifically of what game was that when Andy Reid got Watkins
Cardinals, maybe?
one-on-one against a linebacker. Was it Arizona?
We scored a
And-
couple times, I think.
Yeah, and it was just that's just curtains if you get that. But the catch and then just one quick cut, and then that left Jalen Ramsey just
On
a
Ramsey,
statue.
too,
Yeah.
And he's gone.
Look
I don't,
like-
that's some quick thinking, aggressive.
Yeah.
Just go with it. Again, like you just said, I don't know if he does that last year.
We've been all throughout training camp and the preseason. We kept talking about the speed that the Chiefs have, and and when they added Darwin Thompson and McCole Hardman, that just increased the team speed. And the Anthony Thomas came back, and these small guys with speed, and that's one of the identities that the Chiefs had. I didn't realize Sammy Watkins had that kind of speed. When he made the burst at midfield and got to the end zone, he was not going to be caught, and D-backs were hauling after him.
Yeah.
He's turned on some afterburners. I guess I didn't know he had.
Yeah.
It was
yeah.
obvious Mahomes knew he had it, because I actually watched Mahomes' reaction to that play, and I asked him about it in the post game. But as soon as Watkins caught that ball and made that move on Jalen Ramsey, Mahomes just stared at the sideline and started celebrating. He didn't even see the last 40 yards of that play. But he just knew he was gone. There were still 3 guys chasing after him at that point.
Yeah.
He was a 4.41 guy, I think, at the combine. I think.
Okay, well
You might want to double check me on that.
I'll tell you what. In
And is the guy with, just so I know all the assignments, is the guy with the computer supposed to fact check Sam throughout?
I'll keep you busy.
Yes, as a matter of fact, that is your job. But for that kind of speed with his size, he's the biggest receiver that they have. Wow.
Yeah, you think of him as powerful more than
Right.
you think of him as fast, don't you? I mean,
He said 4.41. It was quite a bit different than that. It was 4.43.
I'll get better. I'll
that's
get
why
better.
we check.
That's
we
why
check.
you were so surprised that he was able to get down the field.
We'll run a correction on that.
Star regrets the error.
Although you actually said you might want to check me on that.
I did,
I don't
yeah.
think that's an error at
I
all. Yeah.
No, but if
present
you're-
it with humility.
Well, if you were Bill Self, we would have just taken it for granted
Yes.
that you were right. So it was a great game for Sammy Watkins. You mentioned Travis Kelce earlier. The first 2 times he touched the ball, he went for 42 and 41. and was so open. I mean, they just
Oh my God.
Yes.
the linebackers had no idea how to keep up with him.
And I would say that I think those two passes might have been the most sort of elegant or beautiful of Patrick's passes all day. You could see when it left his hand, you saw the break, you saw how open he was, and it was just feathered. It was their perfection.
I think Kelce was ticked on the first one when he got caught from behind. I forgot who it was. Somebody had the angle on him. I think he wanted to score on
I think he thought he was. I agree with you.
I think he thought he was going to go 70 yards on that play, and it was ticked that he didn't.
Hey, one thing I wanted to circle to that you mentioned, Blair, earlier, if you don't mind, just while it's on my mind. You know, you talked about thinking it was going to be a tighter, hard game. Well, I mean, that sequence in the third quarter was kind of everything.
Yeah, well, that's a good way to get into
Wilson,
a good way to get into the defense, and so that was the bigger mystery. I mean, look, we this was the highest scoring, most productive offense in the NFL last year. They added pieces. Who thought it was going to be any worse than it was? It was the defense that we were uncertain about and didn't know what to expect, and the Jaguars improved their offense by adding Nick Foles. He threw a beautiful touchdown pass, that play that he got injured on.
Great catch, beautiful.
Perfect pass.
Perfect pass, and Nick Foles, who, by the way, quoted extensively after the game. Did you notice that?
Sure was.
The quote sheet?
Injured.
Yeah, injured. Probably gone. Broken collarbone.
Yeah.
Probably gone for a while.
Are you saying not every team
Not
has
every
that
team in the
policy?
NFL has the same
Yeah.
policy
Yeah.
of speaking to the media after an injury.
But by the way, to your point, what a classy guy. I mean,
Yeah.
he made a point. He was asked about whether he thought Chris Jones.
Chris Jones was the guy who brought him down on that play.
And he talked about that. He basically didn't think so, and that he didn't think Chris Jones would do that on purpose. And then mentions that he saw Chris Jones after the game and hugged him
Yeah,
because he's a special young player.
with his broken collarbone.
Yeah,
How
I
about
hope
that?
Chris didn't hug him back too hard.
A one-arm hug.
Yeah. All right, so the defense, they get a 3-and-out to start the game, right? And that's a good sign. But then Jacksonville scored, I think, on each successive possession, a couple of field goals and a touchdown to go into halftime. And then they get the ball to start the second half. It's 23-3, and they go into Chiefs
23-13.
23-13. Yeah, it's a 10-point game. 23-3. 23-13. They drive into Chiefs territory. And I think it's the most pivotal play of the game. Maybe there wasn't one, but if there was one, I think it happened on this drive when Wilson,
Damian Wilson.
had the strip of a short pass to Leonard Fournette from Gardner Minshew, by the way, who completed his first 13 passes.
As he does.
Yeah, but anyway, the strip by Wilson and Bashard Breeland there to scoop it up, and the Chiefs go down and get a touchdown to make it 30-13, put it out of the reach. There's a play by two guys that weren't on the team last year, right?
Yeah.
Damian Wilson and Bashard Breeland. And I don't think the defense had an outstanding game, but I thought they played good enough.
It's also a play that, people like us can make too much out of one play. This is a symbol for everything. But a running back coming out of the backfield on third down killed the Chiefs a million times last year. That might be a conservative estimate. And that I know Leonard Fournette, that's not his strength, right? He's more of a power back and everything. But still, running back coming out of the backfield, third and short, that's what teams did to the Chiefs last year. And Damian Wilson closed fast on that.
He did. It was not going to be a first down, whether it was a strip sack.
That's true.
It was not going to be a first down. And I was thinking, wow, Damian Wilson got there to prevent a first down, but he did a lot more.
Notably, that is the first lost fumble of Leonard Fournette's career.
How about that?
Wow.
So this is something that he, this is
Yeah, check that.
Do it.
Come on.
Do it. and you're right. And Breeland was right there. And I wrote a lot about the defense, and I thought that that's a little bit indicative of look. They had a lot of issues. They gave up 201 yards on 6 passing plays. They gave up 350 yards total, and 201 of it came on 6 plays. There was 69. There's a 35. All that stuff.
Yeah.
And there was some miscommunications back there. Breeland was on one of them. Zone coverage let the guy go behind him. Fuller made the tackle.
Ward was a split second from it. Shavarius Ward was a split second from a sack on that play.
Yeah. But there was they had some miscommunications in the back that hurt them. They didn't get to the quarterback a ton. Jacksonville was getting the ball out quick, but still, But there were just some fundamental things like the tackling. I know we talked about this after the Green Bay game, the last preseason game, but their tackling was, again, really solid. And Anthony Hitchens actually went in beautiful detail about why the scheme change helps that along. And he talked about, now they're not a gap down, that each man has a gap and they've got it all covered. And all you have to do is worry about right here, right in front of you. So instead of, how many times can we remember Reggie Ragland and Anthony Hitchens specifically trying arm tackles and guys just running through them? And now his point is the new scheme allows them to be more squared up, shoulder to shoulder, hit them in the hips kind of thing, and it helps the tackling. It makes sense logically, and it follows what we saw today. And I'm really interested to see if that goes forward, and also if these stunts and everything that I think Spags is going to use more of, if that has more an effect going forward.
I'll tell you what, if that's true, that's big.
Yeah.
That's really big. I thought Jacksonville missed a ton of tackles today.
Sure did.
From a team whose defense I really respect, and they've got so many stars on that defense, and their beat writers and people who cover them were kind of laughing at their defense today about all the missed tackles that they had. So defense, they gave up 26 points, and all but 7 of that to a quarterback who people had to scramble to see who the backup quarterback was for the Jaguars when Nick Foles went down, who also did not have a great preseason. Gardner Minshew, who played for Mike Leach at Washington State last year. So, and like I said, completed his first 13 passes. But those were
and 22 of 25 overall.
Yeah, not a terrible NFL debut for the first time starter in his first game. So
this is one. I'm sorry to interrupt, but one quick point about that: 13 of their points were right at the end, when and neither one of those scores brought the score closer than 14, and 127 of those 350 passing yards were on the last 2 drives when the game was over. It's just something to
No wonder it took you so long to write your story today. All these stats.
One other quick thing too, just if they don't do something with that turnover, it obviously doesn't matter as much. But that's when the Chiefs had their longest drive of the day. 6 minutes 25 seconds, 12 plays. That really, it wasn't over then, but that. And if you don't follow up with that, I guess is the point.
One thing I didn't like about that drive, when they got to the 1, the first play from the 1 was I think it was Damian to the outside. And he lost 1.
Yeah.
I'm thinking just power it. It's a hot day. Andy Reid said it after the game. He's right. Defensive linemen are the ones who kind of suffer the most on days like today. Push him into the end zone right there. Didn't do it. It actually took a penalty on Jacksonville that brought it half the distance to the goal, gave him a new set of downs, because I think it got to 3rd and 1.
And didn't they have 2 penalties, big penalties on Jacksonville in that drive?
Yeah.
Same
Turned
guy.
a 3rd down to a 1st down.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Same
But the
guy.
Chiefs rotated their defensive line. That's how they guarded against it. I mean, they played 8 deep today on the defensive line. So
They do have depth there.
Yep.
Even with Speaks.
So the way the game unfolded, Jacksonville's strength was Leonard Fournette, and they're down 10-0, and so they're not going to be able to pound and pound and pound. And I thought that a good game for Jacksonville would have been Fournette 30 attempts for 150 yards, sort of thing, and then they win time of possession, 35-25. But they just weren't able to do that because 3 plays into the game it's 7-0, and then let's. Should have been 14-0 with the pass that sailed long and over the head of Travis Kelce. I was thinking about asking that question in the post game, and somebody beat me to it. Was it you who beat me to it?
Didn't you
I
ask?
think it was.
No, actually it was Rob, KCTV.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then I noticed Mahomes tweeted about it afterwards.
He did, although he changed it. His tweet was different than his response. His response was he owed Kelce dinner. His tweet was he owed him lunch. So I thought diminished the sin.
Yeah, they'll be having breakfast tomorrow morning.
But Kelce tweeted that you don't owe me anything, brother. So I think it's probably all good.
All right, Sam McDowell, what do we got question wise?
Let's see. Just searching for the gems of the gems here.
He never gets mentioned, but Harrison Butker 4 for 4 on field goals, and he just nailed it every single time. It hasn't always been that way for the Chiefs.
No, I can remember a time.
They have an automatic kicker.
Somebody's asking about. There's a couple questions about LeSean McCoy and just how we think that this backfield situation basically is going to shape out to the future. Today, it was a pretty even timeshare after the first quarter. Williams got the first, 2.5 to 3 series. And then afterwards, I mean, McCoy had the better burst in that game.
He really did.
He was impressive.
I thought notably, right? Didn't you think if you're just
He
naked
didn't look-
eye, right, without knowing everything that was called or how the blocking worked on each play, I came away thinking McCoy's the more impressive.
And you wondered if he would have played even more if he had the playbook for longer than 5 days.
Yeah, you want to watch the film, right? We all want to watch the film. But there were a couple McCoy runs where the first guy to touch him, it was 12 yards downfield, it seemed like. And this stuck out to me. This is such a small thing. Maybe it's not even worth mentioning. But in the second half, I think third quarter, maybe the fourth, Damian Williams was near the sideline and had a little juke that caused one Jacksonville defender, that he juked them both, but one like sort of tumbled into the other, like henchman in an old Batman movie. And it was a great move. And Williams came off the field after that play. McCoy comes on, and McCoy kind of like did the juke to him as they were approaching, like give him a high five. And I was just like, in that situation, Damian Williams is ready to be, like sort of, the main guy for a team that might set the record for points in a season. And then here comes McCoy to like take some of that shine. And it was just like one of those little subtle moments that, kind of says, okay, these guys really are working together. I thought it was
I love that
cool
you
thing
noticed
to
that.
see.
That's great.
I actually talked to LeSean after the game and waited 5 minutes on him, and it was kind of just me and him. And before I asked him a question, he just looked up and goes, "Man, this offense is good, isn't it?" and I asked him about the game and kind of what he enjoyed the most, and he said those first 2 drives, just sitting over there watching him play. He
Really?
said just how fast everybody is. He just said it amazed him.
That guy's been in Buffalo.
Yeah.
I thought he showed
Buffalo was getting shut out for 3 quarters today.
he showed some shiftiness too. I thought. I just can't remember the last time I saw him in person. How about this is the second time that Andy Reid has called him a future Hall of Famer.
Yeah, is he?
Are we there with that? With
I think
LeSean
it's-
McCoy as a Hall of Famer?
I think he needs a couple career years ahead of him for that.
I understand why
right?
Andy's there. Like he's trying to pump his guy a little bit, but I'm not. No.
Not yet. I think he's over 10,000, isn't he? Career yards.
That sounds right.
We were looking
Sandy
at
might check us on that.
10,606. 4.5 yards a carry. I mean, he's been productive for a really long time.
I'll tell you what, it would help LeSean McCoy's candidacy if the Chiefs got to the Super Bowl
Sure would.
this year.
Didn't Jamal Charles? Isn't he still like the other than
Like Jim Brown or
Marion
quarterbacks.
Motley?
It's quarterbacks, I think, that are
other
ahead
than
of them.
Doesn't
Yeah,
he still have
The record for
carry,
career
average?
yeah.
Isn't
Yeah.
that
I couldn't remember if Denver ruined it for him or if it brought the
Oh.
average down.
I mean,
I don't know if he had
maybe-
enough carries
He
to bring it
left the
down that far,
Chiefs.
did he? But
Yeah.
well, maybe he did.
Yeah, he left the Chiefs with
This
that
is
record.
this is too deep for my repertoire.
All right, let's bring this thing in for a landing with some final thoughts. The Chiefs go to Oakland next week, and so they start with 2 on the road as they did a year ago. Went 2-0 in the road games. Oakland's interesting team these days. Down a wide receiver, they got a little
They are,
weaker.
aren't they?
Got a little weaker at that
They
position.
got 2 7s for the future, so it's the long play.
Wow.
All right, Vahe, start us off. Any just final thoughts?
No, look, I mean, I come out of here assuming Patrick is fine, right? He kept playing on that ankle, but is that too strong an assumption? I mean, do you tighten up after a thing like this? Andy Reid called it a sprained ankle.
And he sprains it all the time, playing basketball. things like
I love how you threw that in there.
Right.
Yeah.
Not playing basketball anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
No, and did you
We know
notice
that.
you and I and Sam McDowell were standing next to each other when Patrick was at the podium? We're all looking at his ankle. You know,
He did not have an ankle brace on.
He did
Yeah.
not. Just
He wasn't even wearing socks. It was just the.
Yeah, that's true. No socks either.
yeah.
Right.
But look, so I'm going to go out on a limb and assume he'll be fine to play this week, right?
Yeah.
But I think they're in pretty good shape. It'd be nice for them to have Tyreek Hill. I don't think they have to have Tyreek Hill to win in Oakland. I think that's a reasonable assumption.
Right. What did Baltimore do today? Didn't they?
They beat the
59 to
bejesus.
10.
Yeah.
59 to 10.
That's your 2-week opponent. 2
Yeah.
weeks. The
It was
home
against
opener.
the Dolphins, right?
It was against the
That's the
Dolphins.
Dolphins.
All right, Melly. Anything?
Not necessarily that we haven't talked a lot about. I was really impressed with Patrick Mahomes' toughness, with the injury and without Tyreek Hill. I thought the defense held up reasonably well and gave you some reason to be encouraged. I'm wondering if a certain active GM, aggressive GM, might be interested in some cornerbacks. Last year it was safeties, and he was chasing Earl Thomas. I wonder if if this year that trade might be for a cornerback. But all in all, I think this was a tougher game than the score, than it looked. And to come out of here again with your ones playing like 9 minutes and you get 40 points and was it 491 yards? Don't even need to double check me on that. I thought was really, really, really impressive.
Sam McDowell, your first game, kind of on the Chiefs beat. What are your
Yeah,
impressions?
I think just that kind of stands out to me most, but I told all of you guys this individually, and with at least 2 of you, I probably meant it, which is just how helpful you guys have been, and I don't think I'd be nearly as prepared for this job if it wasn't for the 3 of you, so I just appreciate that.
All 3?
I said at least 2.
Okay.
Just high
So
as
the
I
third
go.
has a shot. I'll say that I was really ticked in the fourth quarter when the feed on TV went out and we had to just pay attention to what was going on in the field. I mean, what is that? No, we understand.
Play-by-play.
Yeah. We understand that CBS had some issues, and I hope people didn't call Channel 5 because it wasn't Channel 5's fault. Because the game, we lost the feed here in Jacksonville as well. So the Jacksonville market and others around the country lost the feed. But no, it was.
Hey, does the Kansas City Star ever cut out from a Chiefs game? Nope.
No.
Blair and I decided during the game it
Nope.
would be beneficial to us if the game cut out more often.
Oh, for sure. Block them out.
Because everybody would have to read all of our stuff
Exactly.
if they couldn't see the game.
Get to read all of our stuff.
Would get to read all of our stuff.
All right, we're going to bid farewell from Jacksonville and thank Jill for holding up the camera and taking photographs. Appreciate the photographs that are in the Kansas City Star and on kansascity.com. She stood outside in heat indexes over 100 all afternoon shooting those. So, Jill, great job. Thanks a lot, and we will see you guys soon.